Hi everybody. Good morning. It's Friday. Yay. So I want to go over a few things with you this morning to help you get through your weekend. So you might be a little stressed out if you have told your attorney, no, you're not going to do those things anymore. It's getting too expensive. You're tired of the BS. Nothing's working. So, okay, you've told the attorney no. You've told the court no. You've told the gal, no amicus, no psych evals, no child custody studies. So now what? You don't want to give in. You know you shouldn't, but they're telling you if you don't, you won't see your child, right? So let me tell you something. How you posture in child custody litigation is different from person to person. There's really no one size fits all, but for example, for guys, when they resist, they're usually perceived as controlling, aggressive already. You're already, guys already run that risk, right? So if you go in there saying no, they label you as overbearing, intractable, unreasonable. So we're going to talk about what you can do about that today. Oh, and they might even perceive you as a person. So every little thing you don't agree with or agree with mom, they start threatening to throw you in jail if you don't give in, etc., etc. And it just gets worse from there. But what if you're a woman? Okay, when a woman says no, they say you're covering up some kind of mental health issue, you're being unreasonable, you're trying to alienate your children from the father. Or you have golden uterus syndrome. But basically you think that you're better than the other, right? So has either of these happened to any of you watching? So just say yes or no down below. Yeah, I agree with you, Mary. There's a lot of power in saying the word no. Any of you been accused of parental alienation, alienating the other? Hi, Greg. Alienating the child from the other. Any of you been accused of not being sensitive to the children's feelings and wants? I know some of you on here watching have. And you've said no, you're not going to pay for that treatment, right? You don't believe that it's necessary. So if any of these have happened to you, put yes or no down below so I know that what's happening and who's watching. So knowing when to say no is an art in itself, isn't it? It can cause paralyzing fear. Protecting that no is a whole other ballgame. So let's take a look at that ballgame. I'm Sherry Palmer with Fixed Family Courts, by the way. I'm the author of Not in the Child's Best Interest, co-author. I authored that with Ron B. Palmer. I teach parents and attorneys how to use their rights effectively. I craft empowering strategies. We deliver breakthrough solutions that have helped thousands of parents take a stand, become advocates and activists themselves, resolve difficult problems in their cases, protect rights, your rights to appeal. We've worked on reforming the family court system and helping people recover their children. So we've even saved a few marriages along the way. So you've said no, okay? We get that. You haven't given in to their demands, but you're still facing challenges. Let's take a look at what's happening. What's happening is that you thought your attorney was looking out for your interests, and you trusted that he or she was going to protect standards and routines that you set for your child, right? You thought that they knew what they were doing because they have the title behind their name. They're a specialist in the law, and it's the law that you're being challenged with by your ex. So they're supposed to specialize in the law. That part is true. Monica, on her video last Friday, brought up boundaries, expectations, and legal abuse. So let's start there, okay? Her position was that you lowered your boundaries, which raised your expectations for the attorney to protect you, and therefore you opened yourself up to legal abuse. But let's take it from another perspective, all right? And I'm going to show you my whiteboard here. Okay, so if you can see this, hopefully, let me turn on a light. Didn't help much, did it? But if you can see this, you're over here, and this is your boundary, okay? And what's under this boundary? Your beliefs, your values, and what else? Your parenting decisions. So who protects this boundary? It's going to be you and your attorney and the Constitution over here. So we're going to talk about that. But what is happening is you said, I have these standards that I want to maintain in my child's life, and I need you to protect those standards. So you didn't actually lower your boundary. You just went in there and said, all right, I'm drawing a line now. My relationship is busted, so I'm going to ask this attorney to protect the way I want to raise my children. That's what boundaries are all about. You make certain decisions, and you don't want to be forced into other people's way of doing things. So it's your desire to protect that boundary that drives you to fight back in litigation, actually. So if your boundaries were lowered, you wouldn't be looking for an attorney. You would just allow the other parent to do what they wanted, right? So wanting that protection is what drives you to hire that attorney. That means you have standards and you want those protected. So can we all agree that you're wanting the attorney to protect your boundary? So if you agree, type yes or no. If you think I'm crazy, type no, you're nuts. That's not how it works. All right, I see you, Ron. Down there. Hi, Brett. I don't see anybody typing, so hopefully you can still see me because my internet keeps going in and out. So type yes or no if you believe you went to the attorney to protect your boundaries. What makes up your boundary? We just discussed your values, your beliefs, your limits, right? Maybe you had enough in your relationship. Maybe the other one had enough. You're being dragged through it. So the problem that has arisen actually is that this boundary wasn't protected, and now, so you've suffered a psychic injury is what has happened, right? Thank you, Brett. How you've suffered shock. Shock that an attorney would fail to provide you with this protection, but instead they became part of the attack on your boundary, didn't they? They brought people in to say, oh, let's evaluate your beliefs, right? Not allowed with the Constitution, by the way. Let's evaluate your beliefs. So we're just gonna put a big X through those beliefs, right? Because you're gonna have to change those. So they start chipping away at what you have under that boundary. That violates you. That is abuse. All right? So how you protect that boundary is up to you and your attorney when you're being sued. But if you continue just relying on instinct rather than insight, you're going to continue to be abused, right? Because you don't have the information available to you. Don't blame yourself. I'm not telling you guys to self-blame. I'm assuming, though, that if you're helping someone being sued for child custody. So what do you use to protect that boundary? We mentioned it on the board. Do you guys remember what I showed you? What do you use? You, your attorney, and what's that other ingredient? You guys type it below if you remember. Okay, so it's the Constitution. That's right. So hopefully you hired that attorney to protect that boundary and not evaluate everything under that boundary. In other words, let's protect me from the other parent bullying me and telling me how to raise our child. Or I want to prove the other parent's terrible parent and they don't know what they're doing at all and they should not have custody. Or maybe you said, I do all of the parenting responsibilities. He or she has not participated at all. They haven't even done enough to even know the names of the teachers, my children's teachers. I should have custody. He or she should pay. Right? So, or anything along those lines. And you didn't know exactly, other than hoping that the judge would agree with you. Then you really have just asked that attorney to be a very expensive counselor so you can vent to pay this person sitting in a black robe to be a king over your life. You didn't know any better, though. So if you did hire to protect that attorney to protect that boundary, but your requests are leading you down a different path, you need to go back and review what you've asked that attorney to do. You had no way to know that the judge would buy your ex's lies or that your attorney was going to let this become a free-for-all in the courtroom. But let me tell you something. It's not all your fault. You should be able to trust the trained attorney that they would provide proper legal protection and that they would have choreographed your case according to the constitutional protections. So there's no reason to self-blame. Like I said earlier, just be aware the system is broken and you had no way to know any of this and probably wouldn't have believed it anyway if you were told. So we were all raised to believe that those who hold these professional positions are trustworthy. And you thought that your attorney would have your best interests in mind. Your attorney should be teaching you what is protected constitutionally and where the family courts have been practicing this wrong, and what battles you will face with the court in order to get you the protection that you're entitled to. Your attorney should be converting your emotional requests into key legal issues so that your needs would match the legal dance. That's right. Your attorney should be converting your requests into key legal issues so your needs would match the legal dance required to protect those beliefs, private decisions, and values. All right, so I want all of you to learn that because that is the protection you should be getting. It's true that you should be able to trust your attorney to choreograph this for you, but that blind trust has not been serving you well. So now you're going to have to do this differently. So let's look at that board again. You asked to prohibit. You complained about the other parent cursing a lot. Okay, that fell under their beliefs too, right? Maybe their values. Maybe they believe that cursing is a valuable skill for them. And so you don't think it's in your child's best interest that other parent has much influence, and maybe you want to limit them to standard visitation. So let's see how that plays out. What does your attorney do to respond to those requests? Let's evaluate your and dad's parenting styles. That's what they say. Maybe 2, maybe 3 experts. So they decide whether your speech is going to be used against you. So we X that one off the board, right? So that's another one that's under their speech. I'm going to write it down right now, but speech, just cross that off because that's going to be controlled now because you complained about dad's speech or mom's. So let's just continue to X off all the things you complain about. We're going to evaluate and investigate those. So they're going to dip below your boundary. How about the activities you choose for little Johnny? For sake of neutrality, we're just going to call the child little Johnny. Oh, no, we can't have little Johnny taking ballet lessons, right? Or martial arts, because that just doesn't fit that evaluator's belief or standards for raising a child. So now you might as well cross that off. So what has happened here? They have forced their way across your boundary. They are insulting, berating, and judging you, who you are at the core, making you feel horrible, as if there were qualifications written down to you when you decided. You thought these choices were yours. So when you said no, you won't allow them to cross your boundary, you have taken from them the number one way they extort, abuse, and steal from you and your child. So bravo if you have said no. You're on the right track. You're actually on the track to getting that freedom you wanted originally. And you can do this at any time, by the way. So if you guys are really in the middle of it or been doing this for years and you can withdraw that request and withdraw your consent. If it's gone beyond that and there's been an evaluation, they've already been done and reports have been submitted to the court, now you need to challenge a report, that's a different topic for another day. But I'm going to tell you, don't lose hope. There are ways to challenge that as well. The Constitution would have prevented you needing these expensive evaluations, and they would have protected you to raise your child how you see fit and how you didn't know this yet. So you have opened yourself up to this legal abuse. So other experts were brought in to evaluate everything, and they're applying their own beliefs and personal preferences on what they're evaluating and analyzing regarding your choices. And next, you're believing you need to alter things, do them how they want you to do them, match their beliefs, match the judge's beliefs, and several other experts are brought in to help the attorney build a case based on matters of conscience. If you guys don't know what that is, well, I'll talk about that. And this opens you up to psychic injury. So depending on how those evaluations have gone or turned out, you're either questioning your decisions or feeling overconfident that you will win hands down. Your entire case is built on nothing more than subjective opinion. That's very risky and very dangerous. If you haven't gotten into trial yet, that is not what you want your case to be built on. That is not a solid foundation. So soon after you've made all of these changes and you've tried to make your life look as perfect as possible so the judge will like you and choose you, little Johnny doesn't recognize you anymore, and you've made so many changes to little Johnny's life and your life, and you've changed it to other people's liking, that little Johnny might be asking, why are you acting so weird? Why are you acting strange? And things are so different. So you're starting to get stress from your child because your child doesn't recognize you anymore. They loved you for who you were, your flaws, your quirkiness, and now you're hiding. You let the attorney decide the recipe, and he has brought in, let's say, garlic, right? You maybe had a recipe that was tasteless, and garlic dominates everything. If you saw my other video, you know that I like to use recipe as an example. If you want to use the ball game example, then maybe you have brought in, the attorney's brought in a lefty pitcher, right? But you know that the batter coming up hits lefty pitches just fine. So the attorney's making the decision. You're not managing your case. So you might feel like you're fighting two exes now, right? You're trying to get out of a bad relationship, but you just got into a bad one with your attorney. Your attorney's judging every decision you've ever made, and probably it's no different than the relationship you're supposedly getting out of. Even worse. So attorneys are known for keeping you pumped up into believing there's no way you could lose. And then the day comes and the other side turns all of this on you. You're trying to alienate them. All the changes you've made in your life are too much for little Johnny. So you're in court and this is happening. You think everything's perfect. All of a sudden they're using it against you. So you're in shock. You thought you had it. So how many of you believe that you had to beat the other parent to protect your rights? You had to beat them up, or that you had to meet the expectations of court experts or a judge to protect your rights to your child? So if you believe that, put that down. I bet you would have done it differently if you knew all of this now, right? Hi Rakesh, hi Chad. You certainly didn't know that you would be the one getting beat up. You thought this would be simple, right? And that the judge would never buy your ex's lies or see it their way. Did you do your homework on this? Probably not. You probably didn't even know you had any homework. The attorney just said, I got it. Just pay me these huge retainers. I'll take care of everything for you. So you hired that attorney without studying anything about the process, and you just blindly followed them because they're supposed to know how this works and protect your interests. So you believed they had it handled, but don't beat yourself up. Let's just get you back on track so you can be more effective, because I don't know anywhere in life where this has ever worked out, where you just give somebody the keys and say, drive me, and you don't give them instructions where you want to go. So attorneys, they want cases they can successfully manage, right? And telling you, hey, I don't want to represent you anymore because you're not doing it my way. You tell the attorney you need help. The attorney dictates it to you. They're comfortable with that scenario. You don't know what you're buying, though. And you don't know exactly what they think the results should be. You just blindly trust them. Sort of what you did with your ex-husband, your ex-wife. And how did that turn out? Probably bad, or you guys wouldn't be here. You just wanted to get away from that, them after a while, or to change them. You're paying a lot of money to try to change them or get things your way, and you might not have accomplished either one yet, right? You're at a loss. You're running out of money. The case is at a standstill, and so your attorney starts making those suggestions to bring in all of those experts. And your budget's running out, you don't know what to do. So before you know it, you've been reduced to prey, paying for stress, trauma, shock, probably paying for a counselor for your child now. Your energy's being sapped from being sucked into a tit-for-tat, reactive, defensive battle with no direction other than, let's ask the king to make you the ruler of the fiefdom by making you the primary parent. How many of you thought, excuse me, you had to ask for primary parent, right? So that every time, and how many of you knew that every time you asked for something, the other side was going to react by attacking you? And how many of you had a plan for that attack other than, let's just do tit for tat, go back and forth. They attack, you're defensive. You attack, they're defensive, right? That is a very expensive way to do this, as you all have found out. So you're tired. You just want somebody to handle. When has that ever worked for you? Don't you find yourself like, let's do an example, when chores needed to be done at home and you were tired and you got home from work, instead of trying to get the kids to do something they didn't finish, didn't you just find yourself going and doing it, right? Or let's say you had your kid wash the car, or even took it to a professional place where they're supposed to detail it and get into the fine details, and they miss the cracks, they miss the cup holders, they miss the door pockets, they left spots on the windows, so you just do it yourself. So how many of you have actually had to ever turn over major life decisions in your life, right? I bet you thought, or been in trouble with the law, or had a court take over your decisions in life. You probably thought you either had to be a criminal or declared incompetent for this to happen, but here you are, neither of those, and it's happening. So you find yourself more and more dependent on that attorney and freely agreeing that you need to bring in others to investigate your ex, prove what a wonderful person you are and parent you are. Why? Because you didn't go in with that plan. You didn't even know you needed one. Seriously, you might be a corporate attorney here watching today, and you may have a beautiful house because you planned and you knew exactly how you wanted it built, but here you are when it comes to family law, all of that careful planning goes out the window, taking charge goes out the window, taking ownership goes out the window. As Melody mentioned, if you haven't seen her video this week on Monday, she talked, goes out the window, doesn't it? Instead, in family law, we're all made small. So making you small and keeping you in the dark and making you think that law is some magical thing that only witch doctors get, understand and know, keeps you in that victim role. You can choose to get off that victim train anytime now. In fact, you may not be able to afford to be on it anymore. It's very expensive. All you have to do is ask yourself the tough question. If this is such a great plan and a great way to do things, then why don't you have your children now? Why are there so many alienated children in the world? What is taking so long? Why have over 10 million fathers not seen their children in over a year? And why are so many parents going bankrupt and going to jail for debts the court has created? So you need to restart and get yourself back into the role of being in charge of your own life, finding your power and changing your mindset. Change your perspective on all of this. Part of your attorney's role is to make the legal process less and to protect you from infringements of your rights. But without proper guidance, your attorney's going to apply the recipe that they've been applying all along for decades, right? You have to change your approach if you would like to get a different result. Winning is much more than hiring an attorney and giving them the keys to your life. Winning is knowing how to protect that no, knowing how not giving in gets converted to abusing you, spending your money, and punishing you for daring to know when to draw that line in the sand, right? And daring to expect your attorney and the judge to protect your right to do so. Now that you've identified that it's you who protects yourself and that the Constitution is an integral part of protecting yourself from legal abuse, you just need an education, a system, and a plan. How many of you have that? So what will you do next? I'd love to know. Just comment below. I hope all of you guys are understanding that no can be converted to power. You just need that system and plan to do it. So how many of you have started learning about your rights and have found encouragement and strength and confidence? So many people we work with, that's what helps them, right? They don't feel lost anymore. They feel like they have a solid foundation, because that is what it's for. So you guys tell me if you've done that and how that's worked for you, or if you just continue following the plan, how that's working for you. I'd love to hear from you and let me know. So I hope you'll join me next time. And let me see if anyone gave me some comments on what's happening to you. Let's see. Hi Billy, how are you? Eddie, how are you doing? So tell me down below if you guys have experienced any of this. Have you tried to protect your right and gotten punished for it? What did they do? Let us know on here, because only by will other people know to watch for those and know that they need to protect themselves from them. Hi Bill, how are you doing? So if you have a story to tell, also I want to let you guys know you need to get out there and tell it, because that lets people know this is really happening. How many of you didn't even believe this could happen? I have an attorney, I'm protected, this isn't going to happen, right? So if you have questions, feel free to comment down below. I like answers. At least for a couple of days, I'll look on this one. So let me know what's happening with you. And we'll see you next time. I hope you'll join me as we continue to explore these topics. And see you next time. Bye, guys.